Guys, the Celtics, big shakeup this morning. Shocking Twitter, shocking the basketball world. Danny Ainge stepping down, Brad Stevens sliding from head coach to president of basketball operations. His office is probably a lot bigger now, too. Jules, why do you think the Celtics made this move?
Yeah, so the Ainge part of this story doesn't necessarily surprise me as much. We heard rumblings of it potentially. He's been here a long time in Boston, and it was kind of just going the other way. I think Ainge personally, as somebody that's been close to the Celtics in the past, had his worst season in the general manager spot, giving Brad Stevens the pieces to do his job. Something like a Jaylen Brown injury is unfortunate towards the end, but they weren't going to beat the Nets anyway. It probably still would have been a 5-game series, to be honest. So that lack of depth that Ainge gave to Stevens, I think, helped kind of push things this way. The surprising part is that Brad Stevens is transitioning from coach into the front office. I don't think anybody saw that part of this story coming. And it's an interesting one because Brad Stevens gets a lot of praise as a coach with the X's and O's. But what he gets knocked for is that he's not a player's coach and he might not demand the type of respect from a guy like Jason Tatum. So I think that we have a lot to learn about how Brad Stevens can act as the president of basketball operations, but he's a smart guy. His experience as an NBA coach should certainly help him be able to give a coach that he was just in the position of a team that can win. So the one thing that I'll say for the Celtics, I think they should definitely go after a player's coach, somebody that played in the league, somebody that's respected in the league. Top of my wish list as a Celtics fan would be Chauncey Billups. But yeah, shocking from the Celtics, and I think warranted change for sure after the season that Ainge had.
How large of a task does Brad Stevens have on his hands here, moving into the front office and knowing that once again, you're kind of in this like rebuild situation. You need to once again put guys around Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
I mean, overall, it's still a relatively appealing situation, right? I mean, he's not taking over the 2013 Sacramento Kings or anything like that. And obviously he's very familiar with this roster already. And even though, I don't think Brad Stevens' tenure as Celtics head coach was quite as successful as it looked like it was going to be, a year or two in, I think he still has the respect of a lot of those guys. And, he clearly understands the type of players that they need to put around Jason Tatum and around Jaylen Brown. And, if you're taking over as a first-time personnel guy, first-time front office guy, you could do a lot worse than having two of the best under 25 players in the entire league on your roster. So this entire decade for the Celtics has kind of felt like a grand failure, because of all the Nets picks coming in, because of, almost making the finals in 2018 and then not really being able to get back to that level. But at the same time, I think that team, back in 2018 probably overachieved and maybe set the bar a little bit too high for the next few years here. So I think the Celtics are still positioned pretty well. The Nets and teams like Milwaukee and Philly are obviously going to be a bear to get by in the Eastern Conference in the short term. But again, Boston still has two of the 7 or 8, maybe even smaller number of players you would take under 25 in the league right now. So they're positioned all right. And I think Brad Stevens is going to be, 5-10 years from now, we're going to look back and say that this was a smart move for the Celtics.
Ryan, what kind of head coach do the Celtics need to go after now?
I do like Julian saying that a player's coach would be nice, and Chauncey sounds great. But the first thing I thought about when this all happened is I sometimes think that people forget why you play the game. You play to win. And Danny Ainge did a good job of getting people excited by getting assets and getting picks. And that gets some ears and eyeballs on the situation. The Celtics are looked upon as a highly regarded because they have this huge, bright future. But they didn't exactly get over the hump of winning games like people thought they would. And I think that gets lost in this. And this is why this move doesn't surprise me much. But yeah, to answer your question, a former player, even a Steve Nash type of guy, I think would be wonderful. Now, Steve is not on the table for this, but like what the Nets did with that, I think the Celtics should do the same.
Yeah, I've seen Chris Haynes tweeting that Lakers assistant coach Jason Kidd, former Atlanta Hawks coach Lloyd Pierce expected to be candidates for that job. But yeah, Danny Ainge,
no.
Okay, all right, there we go. From a green teamer himself. But, Danny Ainge, at least Jules now, you don't have to worry about every offseason, Ainge almost trading for an all-star and then telling the media about it.
It will be fun to get rid of that narrative. But Brad Stevens did learn from a long time, his only GM partnership in the NBA, how to do that. So hopefully he starts off by not doing that.